Hello everybody, welcome to another Woodworking Wisdom. Today we're in our little crafty workshop and we are going to be doing a bit of power carving. So we're using the Arbortech Power Carving unit and we're going to use a lot of their different cutters and we're going to be shaping a pumpkin. So Halloween's coming up and we're going to carve a little pumpkin that has a hollow in the middle. We can perhaps put some sweets in for all the trick-or-treaters. But otherwise it's going to be a really nice kind of ornamental pumpkin. I've got a piece of wood here. This is a piece of green. We think it might be mulberry, but we're not quite sure what the timber is. But we need to clean this up and prep it for carving. So yeah. Let's have a go at a bit of power carving with Arbortech. Here's our log, which we're going to carve into a pumpkin. A few things we need to do first. There's a bit of ivy and potentially some loose bits of bark. So rather than a chisel, I'm going to use a screwdriver just to get rid of some of this. Just get rid of the worst of it, and then any loose bits of bark. Quite a messy project, this one. So we've got a few dust sheets up around the workshop. Also got the air filter going here, and I'm going to be wearing my respirator for a lot of this project as well. When we need to communicate something, we're going to stop and I'll take my respirator off and we'll talk through the next step. But for now, we're really just getting rid of any, this is ivy that was growing on the tree. I'm just giving it a little brush with a nylon brush because this has been cut, it's been rough sawn with a chainsaw. And it's been lying on the ground, and we don't want any of this kind of bits of dirt or earth affecting the tungsten on the carbide cutters on our Arbortech. So just giving it a quick once over. Any loose bits of bark like this as well, I'm just going to lever them off with our screwdriver. Like I said, don't use a chisel for this because you're only going to blunt it or, cut into the wood. So just the loose debris really, this is hanging on, so we can carve through that. But any of these loose bits, just need to pop them off. So that's about it for the prep. We're going to work from the bottom first. So we're going to carve some little rounds on this top edge here to kind of blend that in. And then we're going to screw a piece onto the bottom so that we can hold it in the vise. Once that bottom's around, it's going to be quite unstable. But we need to carve this into a kind of sphere shape. So first job is to knock this edge off around the top, and we don't need to clamp that. It's quite a heavy log, and actually kind of the weight of it and gravity is going to help it stay in place while we remove this, and then we're going to fix it and hold it in the vise on the bench. Okay, so we have two of the Arbortech Power Carving units here. One I've got fitted with the industrial wood carving blade, and then one with the turbo plane. Now between these two, one's going to take the material off very quickly, the industrial wood carver, but not perhaps give quite as good as finish. A great finish, but the turbo plane's really, with that wide tungsten tooth, really going to kind of smooth things over and give us a slightly better finish. So we're going to work between the two. Like I say, the industrial wood carving unit is really going to take material away very quickly. So when we get going with this is going to produce a lot of chips and dust. So we need to prepare for that. And here I've got my air filter. That's going to take away a lot of the airborne fine dust. And then the great thing about these Arbortech Power Carving units is that it's got extraction right from source. So that's hopefully going to pull away a lot of the material as well and try and reduce the amount of mess in the workshop here. If ever you're changing blades or anything like that on these, always make sure that the grinder is isolated. If you're talking about it or adjusting it or anything like that, always make sure that the grinder is isolated. We don't want these to switch on whilst we're changing blades and things. So now I'm going to put my respirator on to protect my face, and also it's going to clear the air as well and just filter out that dust. We're going to start off with this at a slight angle, and what we're going to be doing is just machining off this top edge here, just try and start bringing in a bit of shape before we flatten the bottom and hold it in the vise. Okay, so we've had a good go there with the industrial wood carver. Again, I've isolated that, unplugged the grinder, and we could see that worked really well. Took material off really quickly. I mean, we're dealing with a log here, so all the grain is coming up this way. So this is all end grain on this top face. And because that round blade there, as that rotates, that's pulling out all of these fluffy fibres. So that's our industrial wood carver, and as that turns, these tungsten teeth are travelling this way, just pulling out the grain. But the next tool, the turbo plane, is just going to dress all of that off, so we're not worried about that at this point. All we're really trying to do is establish a shape on the bottom of our pumpkin to be, and kind of undercut it a little bit. So when we've got that full shape on, it becomes difficult to hold on the bench. That bit's already done, if you know what I mean. So we're going to switch to the turbo plane. We're going to smooth in this kind of change of direction, so we're going to get it a little bit more rounder. But that's what we were trying to do, is achieve that undercut and do it quickly with the industrial wood carver. So, and just before we got carving a moment ago, a couple of bits I did off camera was to bring in a platform, so to give me a better working height. With this on the bench is fairly high. You might want to drop down to something like a workmate or something similar. But make sure when our elbows aren't too high with a tool like this. We want to be slightly above it, and we can bring our elbows in then, and the whole process will be a lot safer. Okay, so I think we're pretty much there with the kind of bottom side of the pumpkin. So first we remove the material using the industrial wood carver, and then we've used that turbo plane to really smooth all those little facets and things in. And I've just skimmed the bottom there to make this nice and flat, because we're going to screw on just a bit that we can hold in the vise. So this is just a bit of scrap tulip. We're going to screw that on and then turn this whole thing upside down and hold it in the vise. Because as that shape becomes rounder, it's going to become more unstable. So really, from this point on, we're not sitting on that flat bottom anymore. We really want to grip this really well, because we don't want it twisting and stuff whilst we're working. So I've just popped my goggles on. We're going to put a couple of drill holes. And just a couple of screws. Great. Now we've got somewhere to grip onto with our vise. And the bottom of this is, is never going to be seen, so we're not going to worry about these screw holes. But rolling over the project, still a fair bit of weight to it. And that's sat straight in the vise. And giving us something really solid to grip onto. So we're looking at the top of the project now. And on this one, we want to make a little lid that's going to be removable, and then just a slight hollow on the inside of the pumpkin. So to make the lid, I'm going to use just a really simple little jig, just a piece of ply which we've cut into a circle. I'm not sure, you can probably see the top of this. I've had a little experiment with some other tools already. But this turbo plane, it doesn't cut up on its edge. So what we can do is use something like a template to follow, and we can use this up on the edge of our turbo plane here, bring the rest of the material down, because what we're going to try to do is to create a little cap on top here which we can then cut off and shape, but we need to bring all of this material down first. So quite a lot of material to take off of this to produce that little bit on top, which we're then going to invert, and we're going to use the outside ring of this one to cut the inside shape so that the lid will sit inside our pumpkin. Sounds a little bit confusing, but it should all come right when we see it happen practically. So just going to pop that one on. And then we can run the edge of the turbo plane up against this ply disc, and that's going to leave that circle that sits under the disc nice and round, and then the rest of the material will start to bring down. Okay, so we've just had a little bit of a clear up, get rid of some of the dust and trip and slip hazards, and just swept all that stuff under my feet just to one side for the moment. Just wanted to explain to you the kind of process that we're going through. We are using that industrial carver to really take this material off around the sides, and then swapping back to the turbo plane to kind of build up this round in the middle, which is going to become our lid. So, you know, just using that industrial wood carver really to take away that material and giving us less work to do with the turbo plane. The turbo plane would do that job, but it would just take a little bit longer. And just for this demonstration, we are using that industrial wood carver just to whiz off that material, just speed the whole process up a little bit. But if you've only got one cutter, I would say the turbo plane would be the one to go with, because that's going to do both those jobs. It's going to remove material quickly, give you a good finish, and you can also use that template to create the lid section. Okay. So we're just going to carry on with this process. This needs to be a little bit deeper because on top there we want to be able to carve just a little section of the stem where it attaches to the plant, and that's going to act as a handle when we want to take this lid on and off. And then of course we need just a bit of material under that to act as the lid. So we're just going to, for now, carry on bringing this down. Then we're going to take off all this material, then we can come back to our lid and carve that into a shape that we want it, and then we can saw that off, separate it from there, and we can then hollow the inside or a partial bit of the inside to create a little bowl that we may be able to fill with some sweets or candy. So, on we go. Okay, so we've brought it to this stage. We've been using a combination of different tools to bring this down, and using that turbo plane and this disc of ply on the top to act as a little template to create this kind of cylinder coming out the top. Now this is what we're going to make the lid from, and on that lid we want like a little stalk. So that's why we've had to give it that much thickness that way. So it's going to allow us to carve a little shape on top, which is going to act as the handle, and then to be able to cut this off, and there's still some material underneath. Now this piece of wood, I'm not sure if it shows on camera, has a slight lean this way, so I think we're going to do the same with the stalk. We've got our hole from the screw in the top there, so that's going to make sense. We can push that off center and have a little stalk to one side, and then we're going to start to bring that shape down into it because we want the top of the pumpkin to kind of come back in on itself. So we're just going to go ahead and carve that. So we've rough shaped the lid and we have cut that off using a Japanese pool saw. Quite difficult to saw through this wet material. I found it was clogging quite a lot in the cut, but we've managed to cut that off nice and flat. And we used the ball gouge as well, the mini ball gouge, which comes as part of the precision carving kit. And so that's a really useful little tool there to get under and kind of undercut the stalk a little bit, giving us something to grab onto. Now we just need to flatten this off, and we need to create this size disc but as a recess in our pumpkin blank. So first job, flatten that off, and then we're going to get a template which was the same size as the one for the lid, but in reverse. So we're going to, instead of using that one, we're going to be using that one, and we're going to go down into the project, and then hopefully we'll get that lid to fit nicely, and then we can start to hollow and put our final shape on our pumpkin. So as you've just seen, we've whizzed off that bit with the turbo plane, that little bit that was just sticking up. So we're nice and flat again now on top. I've put my template, the ring template, on here, and we're just going to clamp that down. We don't want to screw this one in because actually that outside face is going to be visible on our pumpkin now. So just a couple of things I wanted to explain before I put my respirator back on is that we've changed tools again. We are now on the turbo shaft. So this is a straight cutter, also made by Arbortech. It's got a little depth stop on there, and we can plunge this one down with just a small rotation. That's going to go straight down, and we can follow that template round and round here, and we just need to be a bit careful where our extraction is on the on our clamps. So we can go down here and we can just follow this ring around, and that's going to give us a nice straight walled recess down into here where our loose fitting lid is going to kind of sit on top. Okay, so this is starting to take shape now. We've got our lid. We have a little bit to take off of that, and we've got a kind of shallow bowl in here which we can put our sweets or candy in for display. We need to shape this together now. I'm going to take a little bit off the bottom of here just by wedging it in that hole, and then taking a bit of material off. Then we're going to shape the entire thing pumpkin shape. So this is the bit we're going to see it start looking like a pumpkin. We'll use the turbo plane to shape this bit. Then I'm going to go back and take off this kind of hard edge with the industrial wood carver. Then we're going to just blend the whole thing together into that lovely pumpkin shape. So we're going for a pretty kind of classic pumpkin shape, but you know, this is a very kind of free form shape. It doesn't matter if we've got any lumps or bumps or anything that makes it look like it's bigger on one side. That is all going to add to that natural look of a pumpkin. We're just going to try and keep ours nice and rounded, but go for whatever shape you want. If you wanted to do a squash or a different shape, you know, all of that's possible with these tools. A really nice, intuitive, free form way of carving with the turbo plane and the industrial wood carver. So there we go. There's our power carved pumpkin. It's got a little bowl in the top, so we can put all our sweets and things in there, our candy. And you could have this ornamental if you didn't want to go through the trouble of hollowing that out. But, you know, fantastic tools to use, those Arbortech Power Carving units. We've used the turbo plane, the industrial wood carver. So that industrial one really to remove the waste and kind of rough the shape out. And then we use the turbo plane to kind of smooth things over and give us this lovely kind of finish to it. And then also with that power carving unit comes the little sanding disc, which we've just whizzed over the surface and just got rid of any of the kind of lumps and bumps that may have been left on there. So really nice, simple system to use. I would probably recommend either doing this outside or in a put up some sheets or something to try and contain some of the mess generated through power carving. But that's it. That's our pumpkin. Really nice thing. Ready to you know, do your trick or treating at the front door. A lovely little project, all possible through the Arbortech Power Carving system. That's about it for today. Thank you so much for joining us here on Woodworking Wisdom. If you've liked this video, give us the thumbs up and subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll see you soon for more Woodworking Wisdom. Bye-bye.